Thanks for joining us today. It's good to see you. Come on with us to Matthew chapter 24. Matthew 24 at verse 1. It says, Then Jesus went out and departed from the temple, and his disciples came up to show him the buildings of the temple. In the parallel accounts, you can tell, we're talking about his disciples. They were just caught up in the beauty and the grandeur of the facade, if you will, of the exterior of the buildings that were there. The thing is, in thinking about it, and hopefully you understand the application we're going to make, what was going to happen? What was going to happen to those buildings? And the Lord says what was going to happen in the very next verse. He says, Do you not see all these things? Assuredly I say to you, not one stone shall be left here upon another that shall not be thrown down. Those buildings were going to be destroyed. Those buildings that they were focusing on, that they were so enraptured by, that they were obsessing about, they were going to be destroyed in the sweet by and by. For them it was going to happen sooner rather than later. But they were all caught up in the building. Now what was in the building? Or should I say, what was not in the building? Was the Ark of the Covenant there? And that's the thing, it wasn't there. It had been stolen away long before this. The glory of the Lord had departed from the temple. How do you keep the Day of Atonement without the Ark of the Covenant, without the mercy seat? How do you keep the Day of Atonement without the glory of the Lord being there? That's the thing, you simply don't. What was the building? This building that they're focusing on, it was empty, it was vacant. That's what Jesus says. See, your house is left to you desolate in verse 38 of the previous chapter. Now what were they doing? They were focusing on the wrong thing. And that sounds pretty familiar because earlier in chapter 23 the Pharisees were doing the same thing. Chapter 23 verse 23, Jesus says, Woe to you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites, for you pay tithe of mint and anise and cumin, and have neglected the weightier matters of law, justice and mercy and faith. What were they doing? They were focusing, they were neglecting. They were focusing on the wrong thing. That's what the disciples were doing. It is real easy to focus on the building and neglect the true house of God. Hopefully you understand what we're talking about. So the disciples, when they say, Do you see this building? What were they acting like? They were acting sort of like the Pharisees were acting like. And we recognize hopefully what the true house of God is, and we need to make sure we're focusing on the right thing. Hope you enjoyed this study today. God bless you. Be a blessing to others. We hope to see you tomorrow morning.